fellow travelers. Welcome on in to the RPG Cave, level 128. I'm one of your hosts, the level 199 Dark Lord, Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 199 Battle Alchemist, Dr. Garret Bland. How's it going, Garret?
I'm doing good, man. I do have three things for you.
Oh, I'm
We can
excited.
just get things rolling here. First off, I opened up my PC. Now, what my Windows does now, it kind of changes the background of dynamically. It's like, hey, get to know this photo, and I got a picture of a really cute red panda. And it just I have three monitors. I have my laptop screen and then two monitors. It's just gleaming of happiness of red pandas everywhere, and it's pretty awesome. So there you go. That's my first thing.
Nice.
Second thing, daylight savings. What is this? What is this crap?
I mean, you're in one of the states that actually celebrates daylight savings, apparently, by actually, changing the clock.
Yeah, you would change the clock. Canada changes the clock, right?
Of course we do.
Okay, cool. Yeah. You're basically second America. So yeah, you guys do.
Arizona doesn't change the clocks.
Arizona
tried to tell us all about it this week. Yeah, it was weird.
Arizona has some they have some aliens over there. But it's just this arbitrary mindset we've been into, this concept of daylight savings. And I looked up the history of this. It's actually recent. It's a very recent thing in human history that we're doing this, that we're actually implementing, like it's early 1900s, 1970s type of thing. So, yeah, I don't get it. This needs to be abolished. This needs to be get rid of. I don't know why it's automatic on my phone. Like that, it really ingrained in our society in some of these countries, and I applaud the other countries that don't celebrate it.
Well, I mean,
So,
Garret,
yeah.
if it didn't automatically change on your phone, you'd forget about it. Because
That's true.
No one looks at their calendar is like, oh, gee willikers, daylight savings time is coming this week. Like, please let me adjust all the clocks in my house. Well, that's the thing.
I stay up late sometimes, especially on a Saturday night, and I just see 3 a.m, and I'm like, that's impossible.
Exactly.
And then I realized like 5 minutes ago it was like 1:50 or something like that. And I'm just like,
yeah,
this is not good.
That night this week I was up until like 5:30 because that's like when I would normally go to bed, which is 4:30 kind of thing. But it's important for audio listeners to point out in the chat. Of course, Sean is correct. I was mistaken. Okay. Saskatchewan does not participate in daylight saving time. So there's one Canadian province that doesn't, and we're not sure about the territories. We'd have to look it up.
So there's some common sense people within within these regions and lands. It's just not it's not adapting countrywide, Canada, US. I know there's other countries that do it. I know some countries in Europe do it too. But
Fulia told me that like they do it in Australia, but it's not for another month and a half.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Yeah, other countries, I think Europe and Australia do it in a different like day or a different time. So very weird.
Which is super weird because also we have to we of course Fulia is part of the team, so we're coordinating with her to do the PlayStation drive, and it's like, oh well, actually you're at a different hour right now than you normally are because of the fact that because you haven't changed your clocks yet.
We just legit lost an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because we said so.
So there's 17 hours ahead of us instead of 16.
Yeah, that just messed up. Okay, that's the second thing. And then the third thing, of course, Dragon's Dogma 2 coming in hot. I think it's gonna be here in 11 days or so. Like it's late next week. I'm very excited, and I saw that character creator mode. That's kind of cool, I think. I don't know what you think about it, but like, man, yeah, I want to spend like a good solid 2 to 3 hours to, finally polish my main character before I even get the game.
I'm actually surprised you haven't done it already. The character creator is out there.
Well, I've been playing Persona. Yeah. So I haven't had too much time, but Well, the other thing is, I don't know where I'm gonna play it. I'm really debating PC or Xbox, and I think it's gonna be Xbox because it's gonna be pretty demanding specs. And my laptop and Steam Deck probably won't handle it. So I think I'll just stick with the Xbox and create a character there. But I saw some crazy character creations. Like we're talking Fallout 4 level type of shenanigans going on. I saw Nigel Thornberry. I shared a humanoid Pikachu. So many characters like from like other fictional games and stories, whatever. Pretty good stuff out there.
Yeah,
So
I saw a lot of like crazy creations since the character creator has come out. It seems like it's going to be very robust. Like you can make a bunch of different types of characters, especially because there's a bunch of different races to choose from too. Like you're not just humans. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
there's that, and there's also pawns. You know, the system with the pawns, basically kind of your AI companions. I hear it's pretty good in this game. And you're able to share your pawns via a pawn ID that's cross-platform. So if someone else makes a pawn, you can generate that pawn if it's kind of entered into the system, the Dragon's Dogma 2 website or whatever. So
now,
cool.
quick question, Garrett. The place where you trade your pawns, is it referred to as the pawn shop? Because that's where you shop for pawns. You're just like, get me out of here. Like, why did I agree to be on this show?
I don't know about that. The pawn shop. It's just, I don't know where this is going, but we could stop it right here. And we can go to other things. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You know, next week.
Yes.
I'm excited for Rise of the Ronin the same day as Dragon's Dogma. Because like I was reading previews for that today, Garrett, and people kept referring to it being like Ninja Gaiden, but also having stealth elements. And I'm just like, y'all are just speaking my language with this.
I'm very happy for you on that.
I'm like even more excited for that game now. So it sucks because both that and Dragon's Dogma come out the same day. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because like I'm knee deep in Unicorn Overlord land at this point, anyways. So
that's true. You keeping yourself busy with Unicorn Overlord. I wonder. That's at least a 40-ish hour game. I'm sure you'll be able to wrap it up. Probably not next week, but like a few weeks.
Yeah,
at least, and then
I would imagine I finish it before the 22nd, which is next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday.
We'll see. Especially because like I actually ended up, Garrett, after I finished Persona 3, I ended up returning to the demo for Unicorn Overlord and then maxing out the demo just to get a head start on the game because it was only going to be like a couple more days before it was out. So I was like, okay, well,
it might as well play the game. You're literally just playing the game just before it gets really. It's so cool that it's a really nice when game companies do that. There's like, here's the demo. Here's literally like the first 10 hours if you want to play it or not, and you can decide whether to transfer your save over or not.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
well, it literally the way it worked with the demo for Unicorn Overlord is wherever you saved in the demo, regardless of what point in time it was, it just took that save and just put it into the game.
Yeah,
and you didn't need to even do anything else. It just recognized the save on your console. It's like
that's great. Yeah, and like what was Octopath Traveler 2 did that very easily. So,
it was like stupidly easy. It was so good. So yeah, Unicorn Overlord, of course. I mean, you'll hear me talk about it more on PlayStation Drive this week. Because I mean, I'm not going to talk about Plumbers Don't Wear Ties again this week on PlayStation Drive. It'll be time for Unicorn Overlord to finally have a chance in the sun.
You know, before we dive into this, probably going to be a very meaty episode. I just have to say that what's criminal about this show, it's called the RPG Cave, but we're not going to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like every other podcast, I would say at least every general gaming, PlayStation gaming, if there's any other RPG gaming podcast, they're talking about it. And we're not.
I mean, we were talking about it on PlayStation Drive this week. So I mean, there is still carpool gaming representation for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because Nagachaka in the chat is playing it. So we do have someone on the team who's on it, who's on the job.
Guys. Yeah, so if you're first time listener on the RPG Cave, and if you're itching for your Final Fantasy VII Rebirth discussion, go over to the PlayStation Drive. Same thing, Carpool Gaming. Nagachaka has got you covered. I'm sure he's all over that biz over there. So.
It sounds like it's going to be like his 2-month game. So expect lots of coverage.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. And I'll play it at some point. It's just like,
of course.
I decided, with Unicorn Overlord and Rise of the Ronin, those were, took top billing. And then I also kind of want to play the new Contra game. Like that's on the list too. So, and then I eventually I want to go back to RZ.
And hey, we're all human here. We're all trying to game as much as we can.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
there we go.
So yeah, and I do, I talked about this on the Pants podcast this week, but I kind of also want to go back to Prince of Persia and give it a fair shot, because when we got like the copy of that game, it was while I was like packing and moving, and I just didn't give it its proper chance. So like I think I want to really give that game another go at 1.2. So
Sounds good.
there you go. Well, we're 11 minutes into the show, Garrett. We should probably start rolling. Yeah,
Let's just go.
That's just who we are. So let's clear the dungeon of these pesky mobs so we can get to the sacred text as quickly as possible. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do that. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to tap that like button, slightly tap that subscribe button, and then let us know in the comments below what you think about Persona 3 Reload. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, you have two jobs as well. Hit that subscribe button there, and also leave us a nice Apple Podcast review or a Spotify rating if you haven't done so already, if you're listening on those platforms. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic universe on it, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. And of course, we got all kinds of cool stuff over there. The Pants Patreon podcast for Patreon podcast, which was my episode this week. So that's up there now, as well as we've got, all kinds of cool stuff over there. We've even got a free trial if you're interested in checking out the stuff for free. And last but not least, we have our website, carpoolgaming.com, where you can get our RPG Cave t-shirt or any other Carpool Gaming memorabilia that you'd like. Or if you want to check out the PlayStation Drive, like Garrett recommended, carpoolgaming.com has all the links for that. But without further ado, Garrett, it is time to read from the sacred texts, because I'm so excited. We're finally here. We finally made it to this point.
We made it.
Persona 3 Reload.
Yes.
We are finally going to have a chance to talk about this. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the show to talk about this, because Garrett, from us doing our Persona tier list episode, back in a couple months ago, Persona 3, one of my all-time favorite games, one of my probably my favorite Persona game. So it's going to be interesting tonight to talk about the game, the new version of Persona 3. So real quick, for those that haven't been listening to the podcast for a while, maybe we brought in some new people tonight who are interested in Persona 3. I want your history with Persona 3. I think this is your first time checking out Persona 3 just in general, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I never even touched Persona 3 when it was on PSP or anything like that. My first Persona game was Persona 4 Golden back in 2014, and then I played Persona 5 the base one back in 2017, and unfortunately I have not played through Persona 5 Royal yet. And so actually this was my last my last one was Persona 5, and now it's Persona 3 Reload, next mainline Persona game I played. So there you go. Yeah, this is my first time playing Persona 3. I know there's many different versions and extra content or whatever, but I'm glad Atlas came out. It's like, hey, this is going to be the definitive new version of Persona 3. Has those Persona 5 Royal elements in there, which I really enjoy. And of course, it had a really nice spruce up with, new voice casting and animations. And yeah, it really looks good now. Very modernized compared to what I've seen before with Persona 3. So yeah, there you go.
I was gonna say, it's a big step up over the PS2 visuals and gameplay design of the original game, or the portable version, which was literally just a visual novel where you just had a cursor on a map, and that's how you kind of explored the different areas and stuff like that. So it's just it was like, they're definitely, to your point, Garrett, there wasn't really the definitive way to kind of play Persona 3 before. It was always a conversation about, well, do I play the original version? Do I play FES? Do I play portable? Now I think we can both safely say now, if someone wants to play Persona 3, this is the way to do it.
This is the one. Yeah, definitely. And it's out on Game Pass, and it's, all in current systems except for Switch. If someone recommends it, hey, I want to play Persona 3, it's like, great, play this one. You're not going to want to play any other one unless you want to play as a female protagonist. Then you'll have to go to Persona 3 Portable. because it doesn't have that content. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
because when episode I guess launches in September, which we'll talk about in a bit because we do have a question about that.
yeah,
That'll be all the FES content in the game because all the costumes
right.
from FES are in this version. They're all unlockable throughout the
Mhm.
game, as well as the extra items and stuff that they included in that version of the game. So the only thing that's missing is like the answer, which is the kind of the final chapter,
Right.
and that'll be the DLC that comes in September.
And what was very interesting is that Atlas released Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 Portable kind of like, simultaneously together on Game Pass and other systems. It was kind of weird because it released, it never mentioned Persona 3 Reload, but like we really had at least, to us, like there were definitely some rumors going around. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, a remake is happening. So I definitely I was glad I was patient about that because Persona 3 Portable, it was cool to see it in newer systems and out on Game Pass, but I was just like, man, this is not the way I want to play this game. I want to, see if they do a remake of it, and they did, which
Yeah.
is great.
No, and actually, like, we had questioned at the time, well, why that version of Persona 3 and
Yeah,
not a different one? But, like, after playing this game, it now makes perfect sense why it was that version, because the only
definitely.
thing that is missing from this version is the thing that's unique to the portable version. So
Yes.
they give you the ability to play that on a modern console. If you want to do that, it would have just been like, and the developers talked about this in interviews, but it would have been
Yes.
too much of an undertaking to add the female protagonist to this version because they basically would have had to do the game twice, essentially.
I in going through the game, I understand that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot more voice casting lines, a lot more animations. It's I can tell that would be a significant amount of effort putting in that
Well, especially
extra.
because like all the social
Yeah.
links are totally different for the female
Oh,
character.
really?
Even a lot of the main storyline dialogue is different for the female character.
Wow.
And it has
I
different music and a different visual style to it. So
I might
like,
have to play, Persona 3 Portable, the female protagonist just
yeah.
to experience it sometime, but
No, there's a reason why
oh,
people love it because it is like
yeah,
it is basically a different version of the same game, which is
mm,
like super cool to see. Like we don't get to
very
see
cool.
that very often. Because yeah, they wanted to find a reason for the PSP version to stick out and a
Yeah.
reason for people to buy it. So it made perfect sense to do it that way.
Cool, cool.
Yeah. But getting back to our history of Persona 3, I of course, big stand for Persona 3. I played it after playing Persona 5 because Persona 5 was my first Persona game. I played it back in 2017. And then basically after I finished Persona 5, I'm like, well, I need to go back and play these other games. Especially with the music games and stuff really got me into Persona 3. So in 2018, that's when I went and played both Persona 4 and Persona 3 for the first time. And I loved Persona 3. Like as I mentioned earlier, it's honestly one of my all-time favorite role-playing games. And I loved the FES version. And is this version better than the FES version? You'll have to wait and find out a little bit
Cool.
later in the show. Spoiler alert, I actually think this one's better. But
Oh,
um
dang. Okay.
yeah,
Sounds good.
but let's start with some surface level thoughts on this character, as we always do
Sure.
when we do like a discussion like this. Don't we're not going to go too deep into it, but like, um, I'm going to gush about this game in a second, but I want to hear from you as someone who's played this for the first time, because
Yeah.
I've gotten a little bit of a feeling when we've talked about it on the show a couple times, but like I don't know for sure how you feel about it, and we
Mhm.
haven't also like for full transparency, neither of us have talked off air about this at all
No, not really. Not
other
much.
than like updating progress and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Like, so I have no idea how
Mhm.
Garrett feels about this game. So Garrett, tell me, hit me with it. How do you feel about this game?
Yeah, it's a great game. I really like it. I don't think there's really a bad, like a bad Persona game or a middling Persona game. It's still a great game. Where I would rank it, I don't know. I feel like I need to replay 4 Golden just to remind myself what that was like. It's been years since I played that one, but yeah, Persona 3 Reload. I really enjoy. Let me just the highlights for me in
Yeah,
general. It's
of course.
I love the animations of this game. Very stylish. Reminds me of Persona 5, but it has its own style for sure. It's very blue, right?
Yep.
It has that. I like this darkness going around this game. It's very different than 4 Golden and 5.
Yeah.
from that sense. It
Well, because
has,
it's like
yeah,
theme is very different from 5, because 5 is very
yeah,
much like the, goofy thieves, committing crimes kind of thing, and like,
right.
kind of like the bank robber kind of aesthetic in a way. Whereas this is very much just, teens with troubled pasts going in
Yeah.
and trying to stop the world from blowing up, basically.
Yeah, that's basically it. And let's stop the depression,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, so I love the animations of it, from the battle scenes to the characters. The character art's great. I love the voice casting of this game. I think the English voice casting did an incredible job with
Mhm.
all the characters. Um, I think what was kind of weird to me, and I think we'll get into it a bit more, was the story just felt, I don't know, it was really I the main story was it was comprehensive to me, and it was great from beginning to end, but really the extra stuff going on, like the social links were kind of not it was kind of disjointed.
Mhm.
The scheduling was a little, I could tell this was the first one,
Yeah.
first of its kind with the Persona mainline games, just because the social links were its own thing, the story was its own thing, the dungeon was its own thing. But really, in Persona, I would say really Persona 5, they blended that much more together.
Mhm.
And it kind of makes sense. I can see, it's like, oh, looking back, Persona 3 was kind of like this. We need to, kind of more blend them together. So I think that was just one thing that was kind of weird to me. I think the first half of the game, I did not it did not grab me, really.
Okay.
The first half, or first third, really. I think when it got to, let's say, the summer break, is when things started picking up a lot more, and I really enjoyed the end game, much more than the beginning of the game. So there's that. Is story wise, that's how in depth I'm gonna go,
Yeah.
and everything like that. But combat is it's very nice. It's what we come to know and love with Persona, and Shin Megami Tensei turn-based combat. And Persona's the same thing. The skills are the same thing. Fusing personas is the same thing. So yeah, of course, no complaints about that. Tartarus, I know a lot of people are down on Tartarus, and people who don't know, Tartarus is the main dungeon that you kind of go through floor by floor.
Yeah. Instead of going to palaces, you have
Yeah,
different levels of Tartarus, essentially.
exactly. And then you kind of just like face a boss at, like, end of the month or whatever. Um, I didn't mind that as much.
Yeah.
And that's just maybe because I am a dungeon crawler creature by habit. I love Persona Q series.
Mhm.
And if you thought Tartarus was repetitive and monotonous, wait till you play through like 3 levels of Persona Q, because it's
Yeah.
just all like that. It's just floor by floor, just like, randomly, I would say randomly generated, but like, it's kind of the same thing, procedurally generated floor by
Mhm.
floor. But so it didn't really,
Now, fun
bother me.
fact about Tartarus, Garrett. I don't know if you knew this or ever experimented with this idea, but did you know that unlike the Persona, like Persona 4 and 5, where you have to get to the end of the palace and beat it in the timeline, you don't have to get to the top level, the maximum level of Tartarus at the end of the when the full
Hmm.
moon comes around in this game. Like you can just
Oh.
choose not to do that. Like I like the idea where they give you more freedom, where Tartarus, you're not on a deadline to do it, so you don't feel like you need to cram it all into one day. One of the things I like about Persona 3 is I feel like you can spread the dungeon crawling out more than in other Persona games. Yes, you do run the
Okay.
risk of not getting all the social links if you do that too much, but I like the fact that there's the freedom there where like sometimes you don't want to go in and do it all in one night kind of thing, and do it in just like one like 3 or 4 hour block, because it will get monotonous and tedious if you kind of do it
Hmm.
that way. But and the game kind of also encourages you to do that by throwing in later game elements by being like, oh, people have wandered into Tartarus and you got to go save them
Yeah.
in order, and you got to save them by the end date in order to get the reward from them. So it encourages you to revisit Tartarus or just not do all of Tartarus in one night, because in the original game it was very tough to do Tartarus in one night,
Yeah.
because there was a system in the game called the fatigue system, where your characters got tired the more you use them. to the point where like if your characters were tired, like all their attacks would miss or they wouldn't do any damage.
Interesting. I like
Uh,
that actually.
and then you had to give them like a day or two to rest
Yeah.
before they were recovered again. And so not only did it encourage you to use different party members, but also it encouraged you not to go to to not just do all of Tartarus in one night to kind of space things out a little bit.
Right,
Whereas they
right.
removed
Cool.
that in this version because like people did complain about the fact that there was there because they wanted to just run with their same party members. And this could kind of give you the freedom to just
Mhm.
configure the party however you wanted to.
Mhm. Yeah, so yeah, I guess the flow of Tartarus was it was really nice actually. You kind of just go through, floor by floor, and each floor has, monsters that you approach, and of course you engage in turn-based combat, and then you have your party members or whatever. But like after a few floors, I would say it's like 5 to 8 floors or something like that.
Mhm.
You'll actually have a floor. It's like, okay, you can go back, you can save, you can switch around party members if you want. You can fuse personas if you want. Then you can go back and then you can, face the floor boss, whatever that is. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of, mini
I
bosses
was just gonna
in
say, like
Tartarus. Yeah.
each block of Tartarus usually has like 2 or 3 mini boss encounters.
Yes, and it's very straightforward. They're not trying to trick you. They're not trying to cheese you
Nope.
in this level design, in this floor by floor kind of,
They even tell
dungeon
you
or
with like the
whatever.
navigator will
Yeah.
always tell you like, "Hey, just so you know, in 2 levels you're gonna there's gonna be another floor boss," essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, so for me, my experience, I actually go through this in one day because
Yeah,
I found it easy enough for me now.
which is fine too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went through it, and I switch around party members. I love to be as equally distributed with the experience and everything with my party members as much as I can. So I really do like, man, every time I have a break, I was like, okay, are these my lowest levels? Okay, what are my next lowest level characters? All right, let
Mhm.
me bring them on. Let me bring them in my party. Let them get experience. So
Yeah.
overall, I love the pacing itself of Tartarus. Now I understand, oh, it's not creative Tartarus. It's just kind of, floors and walls
And
and
they're all randomly
monsters.
generated too. That's another thing that's unique
Yeah.
to this Persona game versus other ones.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas, Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 really expanded on the kind of design of the palaces or the dungeons or whatever.
Mhm.
You don't see that in this game, and that's okay. I think that's okay. I'm glad that they didn't really make that too much different
No.
in this game.
If
They
anything, like I
Yeah.
almost this makes me hope that whenever Persona 6 rolls around that like it does something different from the normal palace system. Like
Yeah,
it's
me
not
too.
exactly the same. Like I hope that they try some new stuff with that because I almost feel like if they do the same kind of like this almost felt refreshing that it wasn't the same palace system as
Mhm,
the previous games.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I did that. I normally go through it once all the way. That was great. And then did you do the Monados? The
Oh, I did
Monados?
every time I did the Mondad doors is what I call
The
them.
the Mondad doors.
The
Okay.
Mondad doors, which of course have like more powerful mid tier bosses in them, essentially. In fact, some of them are actually even more powerful than the bosses you'll fight at the full moon. It just depends on
Yeah.
which ones you randomly get,
Yeah, yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
But yeah, I would do them, especially because like eventually later you get the Mondad tunnels, which are like a
Yeah.
series of multiple bosses, and then like they're usually the hardest bosses you'll fight in that month,
Oh
essentially.
my goodness. Yeah, I just finished the one on my so I'm on the last block, like, or second to last block
Oh my god.
on the game. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm pretty darn close. The previous block, the last boss on the Monad tunnel or whatever,
Mhm.
that was a pain in the butt. It was the 5 god hands, the 5 shadows,
Oh
and
yeah.
each of them have an elemental weakness, but the middle one, the golden hand, does not, and I'm just like, "You got to be kidding me."
And the best
This
part is they heal themselves too, like
They heal
sometimes to
themselves.
full.
You can't do area effect attacks because one of them at least blocks or heals or reflects
Yeah,
one of the elements, and it's just wow. You got to be very strategic on picking off these shadows. So
yeah.
yeah.
It also
Oh
it just
well.
really encourages you to have like a balanced selection of personas for your main character, even more than
Yes,
I think Persona 5 or 4 does, I think.
I
Like you
agree.
you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
really like it, they really made you do that a lot. And again, the original game was balanced that way too, because you couldn't control your other party members. So
Got it.
they wanted to encourage you to be like, hey, try and get as many of the different elements or attack styles with the personas that you have available with the main character, so you always have access to whatever you need.
Yeah, yeah. So overall, I really enjoyed my time with this game. I think the story got really a lot better and more active the second half of the game. I
Mhm,
can understand people going into this, and if they play the first, I it's hard, man. It's a deep cut. I would say the first 20 hours is pretty slow. Like it's a hard one for at least for me.
mhm,
I like getting into it, but it just kind of felt like it wasn't like building up or drawing up or anything like that. It's like, okay, you're now in this team. Okay, now you're in this dungeon. Okay, now you're like it kind of
yeah.
just like fell, the pieces right there for you. But I think like once I started to grow with these characters and figure out their endings of their linked episodes or whatever,
Mhm.
man, these are a great cast of characters for
Yeah,
sure.
and
Yeah.
what's interesting about it is like it's the opposite of Persona 5, where the social links that you get first in Persona 5 are your party members, and
Right.
then you get the social links of the ancillary characters afterwards. Where in this game it's reversed, where
Right.
your party members are the last social links you usually get, and the ones that you get first are the random people around school or around town. Like
Right.
there are all kinds of different social links that you have. In fact, Famous Seamus asks, "What were your favorite social links?" So I have a few favorites, and most of these really haven't changed since I played base Persona 3. But Garrett can probably already guess one of my favorites, which is one of the ancillary characters, Maya from the MMO. I
Oh,
love
of course, yes.
because
Yes.
she's like so just like prototypical gamer girl, like playing MMOs. Like she's just like all excited, so passionate about this MMO. She reminds me of a certain someone that I know in my life. So I really loved interacting with that character. Then when you find out who that person is,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, that's so good. In fact, you haven't even got to the best part with that yet, Garrett, because there's more to come with that social link later in the game
Oh,
than where you are
really?
now. Yes,
I
which will be
I mean, I
interesting.
maxed it out, so I
Oh,
guess
trust me. You'll just
okay.
you'll understand later. But
Okay, sounds good.
yeah, I actually I love that whole like the whole story arc you go on with Maya. She's like your buddy that you go on, dungeons with, but then she's complaining about her coworkers and stuff like that. It's just
Yeah, no,
fun and goofy.
it really did remind me of when I was like in late middle school, early high school playing Maple Story.
Mhm.
Because you just talk like that with other
Yeah.
people. You
No,
you
exactly.
really
She reminded me of so many people I've played World of Warcraft with.
like they did a great job of translating that kind of
No, and
language
and
and
and that
dialogue.
dialogue for the most part is the same from the
It
base
is.
game. So back from
Wow.
like 2007 when the first game originally came out, essentially, which is
Wow.
weird to think about.
Oh, that's a good
But
one.
yeah, another one I really like is Tanaka, the host of
Oh,
the
yeah.
show, the Sunday morning show.
Yeah,
You
no,
go
it's
and talk
great.
to him at night, and he's
The
talking about like
shopping channel.
embezzling money and stuff like that. And I'm just like, he's just such a slime ball. But I just
Yeah.
love like his whole story arc he
He
goes
just took
on.
your money and is like, "Hey, I'll teach you how to embezzle money and do stuff." I'm just like,
Yeah,
"Oh my gosh, dude."
exactly. Like I really like his storyline. And then the I think my favorite party member's social link that I really like is Yukari. I really like her
Yeah,
storyline
Yukari's
as
good.
well. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But what are your favorite social links from this game, Garrett?
Well, I really enjoyed the Gourmet King,
Oh,
Nozomi.
nice.
He was a
The fat
funny
kid in the mall you just hang out with.
dude, okay, so I don't wanna spoil so much with this social link, but it just goes places.
Yeah.
So just people just backs out this social link, the Gourmet King, Nozomi. It I didn't know where this was gonna go, but it went there, and I'm like, "All right, this is crazy." So I gotta hand it out to the Gourmet King. I like Yuko a lot. I think I, relate to, um, her in a sense of like, she's instructing and coaching kids, and she's finally realizing what kind of career path she wants to go down. And it's very nice.
Mhm.
So I like Yuko for
And
sure.
I will say she's also probably like one of the better romance options as well, because she is a
Yeah.
romanceable character.
Yes. Yeah. So there's that. I do like Yukari's. I don't care much about the social link. I like more just her story.
No, that's exactly because I liked
Yeah,
getting to
yeah, yeah.
know her more in this through the social link. Like that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. So I think those are my top ones. I'm trying to think. I love the the shopping channel
Yeah.
host. He was the monk.
Oh
The
yes,
monk
the
that went to the
the
club.
drinking monk who's just hanging out in a bar where you just go and just talk to him while he's like smoking a cigar and stuff.
Yeah, he's smoking a cigar and drinking and just talking about his wife and kid, how he wants to go back to them.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So
And
yeah.
if you want a social link that'll hit you in the feels, the dying kid who you visit in the
Oh,
park.
the dying kid really hit me in the feels. Also, the
Oh my
little,
god.
what's really funny is the little girl
Yeah.
that has the parents divorcing. You can literally tell the child, like throughout the whole social link, that it's your fault.
Yeah, you can.
Like,
And just be a bad person.
you be a terrible person to this girl, telling that it's all your fault that your parents are divorced.
Oh my god.
It's so bad.
I'm starting
Oh
to feel
man.
like you were the person that did that, Garrett.
No, I had to max out the social link, so I
Oh,
I
that's great.
couldn't I couldn't necessarily tell her that it was her fault, but
So then,
I
speaking of social links, Garrett,
yes.
how sad were you that there was no Junpei social link? I know you wanted it. I know how much you wanted to get to know Junpei better.
I it's actually for my main character, I'm glad I did not have a social link with Junpei. I just didn't think they had much of a bond,
Right.
really. It's
Yeah.
more with Junpei and the other character.
Mhm.
I think it was like Chidori.
Yeah, Chidori, yeah.
Um, Yeah, yeah, that relationship and that whatever that came up to be was really nice.
If
Um,
anything, I liked the idea of, like, him kind of being jealous of the main character and, like, what kind of
that's
frustrations
true,
that brings up in the story. Like, I liked that angle of it because we don't really see that a lot in the other Persona games. Because
for
he's like,
sure.
I guess like
Mhm.
Junpei wanted to be the hero, he wanted to be the leader, and he's not. He's playing second fiddle to this kid that just happens to be able to summon all the personas.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember there was like this sort of intermission, like a good month or two,
Mhm.
where he was kind of like, "Oh man, why am I in this party? Why am I doing this? Like, what's the point of this? I'm not even the leader. Like, he's the
Yeah.
leader." I remember that. It's like that's interesting to see.
Yeah,
Um,
because like I
yeah.
was like you, because I remember you talking about Junpei before and how much you didn't like Junpei, but like
Oh,
I
in
was
the
kind of like
beginning,
that
yeah.
at the beginning too. But
Mhm.
like when I saw more and more of Junpei's story with Chidori, I like actually like started to like him a lot more as a character. But also just liked the fact that they dove more into him and him finding someone else who
Mhm.
appreciates him. Like I liked that whole like story arc he goes on with Chidori.
Yeah. I don't know about you with this game compared to Persona 4 and 5, but I felt like the main character was glorified a little too much. I
Yeah,
feel like the end of every social link, it's like, "Oh, it's all because of you.
yeah.
Thank you." And I'm just like, "Really? You gotta be like this?"
Look, did you not see how much he helped that old couple who were
Oh,
like
man.
loved that tree in the schoolyard?
The persimmon tree.
Yeah,
Yes.
the persimmon tree.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just every social link is like, "Oh, thank you so much." And it's like, "Oh my gosh, I control all the personas. You're so cool." I'm like, "Can we please stop?" Like,
Look,
this
he's
is
a really cool character. He's got headphones on all the
so
time, and he's
he's
just
he's
very
got an
stylish.
MP3 player around his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't say a thing. He doesn't say a word.
No, you don't hear him at all other than,
No.
him like casting the personas. Because obviously it's the same with Joker,
That's true.
the other character from Persona 3 who Persona 4 whose name I'm blanking on. But
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. I again, but at the same time, it's just like, he's glorified a little bit, but I like how he fits into the story, especially towards like
Mhm.
the end of the game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
which again, we're not going to spoil here. In fact, Skycatcher Gaming saying, I was so sad the last week of school in January.
Whoops.
You're going to get there, Garrett, at some point, but
Whoops.
yeah, it's fine. But anyways, other characters though, Kodamaru, I love the fact that you had a dog who was a companion. He's
super
the best
cool.
boy. I love,
yeah.
and he was like a great party member just in general, because I loved like his ability set and stuff too.
It's just his choice of weapon was a dagger that he held in his mouth. I just like, this is next level stuff, man. It is a ninja dog.
Until you get the bone, which is so you just whack people with a bone instead. It's one of the weapons he can get. When you see him in combat, he's literally just got a bone in his mouth. He's just hitting people with a bone. It's great.
I love it. But yeah, that was a good one. Of course, what was the I forgot his name. There's a lot of main characters I would forget their names. And one that was kind of a rogue goth type of dude, bigger.
Yeah, he's like the last party member you get. In fact, I almost don't want to spoil it for people who are going to play it for the first time. So I'm gonna leave him nameless. But I like his story arc too, because he's a little bit brooding, and I like how he kind of factors into the main story later on in the game.
Yeah. You do see him in Persona Q too. You see all the characters,
of course.
Q too, of course.
Yeah,
they just randomly go in there.
Also, just to throw out here, one of the things I liked about the story and what they did differently in this game versus other Persona games is I liked the fact that in addition to the threats from the shadows, you also have a group of other Persona users that you're fighting against throughout the story.
Yeah.
Like I liked that aspect, and I hope because don't get me wrong, you had one or two people, like there was the one person in Persona 5 that I won't name for anyone who hasn't played Persona 5, but beyond that, they haven't explored that idea at all. So I hope with Persona 6, they have a rogue faction of Persona users you fight against as well. Because some of those boss fights with them were really cool too, because they use the mechanics that you use, but against you, which is really cool. So I like the idea of having a separate Persona faction that is being well, actually, we kind of want them to blow up the world. That's what they're all about.
They're all about having the power. And keeping that power. It's a very interesting it's that, and it's also just control too, because man, the origins of Persona and the Dark Hour and the Tartarus or whatever, it is so dark.
Yep.
It comes from very ugly beginnings, and it actually just, man, I don't want to get into the story so much, because it's just, I think the origins of this game is the best one.
Yeah.
Out of 4 Golden and 5, I without a doubt, this one is the most grounded.
Well, they get the most into the origins as to why things are kind of the way they are. Because in Persona 4, it's just all right, I'm going into this TV and there's a talking teddy bear and he tells me about shadows and the palaces, cards. And that's it. Yeah, and cards. But they're not explaining to you why the palaces exist or anything like that. There's the murder mystery that's there, but we are not really getting the backstory of well, actually, this is the reason why all this stuff is happening. It's very clearly explained, which is cool.
Yeah. I really need to replay Persona 4 Golden, because I just don't remember that story so much, and I did get the bad ending, so I'm curious where that went. But I'm just glad that this one made a lot more sense than I remember playing Persona 5, where it just went. And to be honest, with every kind of spin-off Persona game now these days, even Tactica, it's just oh man, we're killing God. I understand. Yeah. We're killing a concept. I understand.
Yeah.
This one was a little bit more no, this is how it is. I'm just oh, okay, cool.
Yep. Awesome. This is how we got here, and this is what we need to do to fix things. This is essentially what you're doing in this story. So yeah, I like how different it feels from the other games. And the differences for those that are curious between this version and the other versions, obviously the ability to control your other characters is different. That's number one. Number two, the third G attacks are brand new to this game, because those were the third G or Thargy attacks, the special
the special abilities. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
because you had some of the main characters ones as fusion spells, they were called in the original game, that you had access to if you had certain personas in your like in your mind space, or wherever the main character stores his personas. That's where, if you had like the two personas in there, like the two Jack brothers in there, you'd have access to the Jack brothers fusion spell essentially. But otherwise, the other characters didn't have anything special like that. So it actually, made the combat encounters, I think, this time a little bit easier, because you actually since they're quite powerful. Especially
it takes you out of a bind for sure. There's like a few of them, like, I better use that one right now.
No, and I would compare them to, I would say they're just as useful as the Showtime abilities in Persona 5 Royal, which were in that version of the game. So, but I liked their inclusion here, especially because like in Royal, you couldn't control them. Whereas in this, I liked the fact that like there was a meter for it and you can use them whenever you want to. And then there's like a justification based on the characters' personalities as to how to make that bar fill up faster. Like I liked the idea.
Yeah,
there was like
a certain criteria for each character.
Yeah, like there was a rhyme or reason. They even put in like a story specific like reason for it to exist in the game. So I liked that idea. Other than that, they changed like a few minor, story like things to, change some lines of dialogues that might have been a little bit problematic in, today's day and age. But besides that, otherwise it was basically the same as the original game. Combat encounters are very similar. You're fighting all the same bosses for the most part. There are some extra encounters in the Mondad doors, especially the ones you haven't got to at the end of the game, that are unique to this game, which are cool, and they're very hard. But they're there if you want that extra challenge, which is really cool. Also, just there's extra difficulty sections in this game, because there's like a very easy mode in this if you're having trouble with the combat, but then there's also like the merciless mode from Persona 5 where it's like super duper difficult if you want to be punished essentially for playing the game. But
yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Also, you were always able to attack the enemies kind of in the overworld in the original game. But I don't know if you did this, Garrett, but in the nightclub, there's like the guy who sells like black market
the
URLs.
Magazines. Yeah. Or the URLs. Okay,
the black market URLs, and some of those allow you to enhance your ambush ability. So then you can, do it while running, and then you sprint around Tartarus faster. And then, you instill like panic into the enemies when you do that. That's all brand new with this game too.
Cool.
Yeah. So
cool.
I like the fact that they didn't go over the top with the changes, other than of course the visual design and just making the combat just feel a little bit tighter, just move a little bit faster. So I do appreciate that with this version of the game. But before we kind of move to final thoughts, Garrett, since we've been going a little while with this, let's get to some of the questions that we have about Persona 3 Reload, and then we'll move to final thoughts. We're going to start with Hambone Johnny, who says, Persona 3 Reload is my first Persona game, and I really enjoyed it. What makes it unique from other Persona games? Since I like this one, is it a safe bet that I'll like the others as well? So again, like we talked about a little bit earlier, like Tartarus, instead of having like one big dungeon, you're instead like basically in every 30 days, you have to complete what's referred to as a palace, which is like kind of like a specially designed dungeon around a character that you're rescuing or a character you're trying to take down in Persona 5, essentially. So that's like the main difference. Otherwise, correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett, but there aren't too many differences gameplay wise between this and Persona 5. I think they're very, very similar as far as the actual like combat and stuff goes.
Yeah, no, actual combat is very similar. I think well, in Persona 5 you have the persona, and then you have the gun too, the ranged attack. Which is it's different. You don't have the special like third G ability, but as you said, you have the Showtime kind of events when you have like 2 or more partners together or whatever. There's some cool animations there. If you like Persona 3 Reload, I think you'll really enjoy 4 and 5 as well, because it's kind of the same as Ryan said. This is the kind of origins. It's like the birthplace of the format of the mainline Persona games. You go back, you have a gang of high school students, you go through a schedule, you go through a palace that goes through the same turn-based combat. So as long as you like that, you're going to have a great time
Mhm.
with 4 golden and 5 royal. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And the best part is, Hambo Johnny, since you played Persona 3 first, when you get to the special section of Persona 4 that crosses over with Persona 3, it'll make way more
Mm.
sense now that you've played Persona 3.
Hmm. See,
Because
that's why I need to play Persona 4 Golden and then Persona 5 Royal. My 2024 gaming
yeah,
schedule's done.
because like
It's basically done.
those two are like intrinsically actually like more tied together than other Persona games.
Yeah, that makes sense just because of the what's going on in the real world.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Actually, they don't get it into it so much with Persona 3
Mhm.
Reload. It's like, oh, apathy syndrome, and that's it.
Well, you
They
see
don't.
and you see them like standing around like the apathy syndrome
Yeah,
victims, like standing
yeah.
around the mall and stuff like that. But beyond that, you're right. Like they don't get too much into it.
Yeah, they yeah, barely any. Whereas for Golden's like, we're into this so much. And it's all about the investigation. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and they all have just different feels to them. Like that's the idea. Is
Definitely.
they have like different flavors. Like Persona 4 is like a small town murder mystery, and then Persona 5, you're again like trying to be like thieves and you're stealing from stuff, and it's like trying to take down the man. Is essentially what I
Yeah,
would say
more or
Persona
less.
5 is. Yeah. But next up, we got Jarden, who asks, I didn't really know anything about Persona 3. I started with Persona 4 Golden. Can you explain exactly what the expansion slash DLC is going to be? It's not the second playthrough like everyone was hoping it is. So, Jarden, yes, episode Igus is the DLC that was announced, part of the expansion pack, Garrett, because there's multiple layers to it.
Because you get more costumes in that
Yep,
expansion pass.
and also just like extra songs to replace the
Extra
battle music
songs, yeah.
if you want to.
Mhm.
But no, so the episode I guess was a add-on pack that was added in Persona 3 FES on the PlayStation 2, and it's basically like a epilogue to the game where you're playing as Igus, and there's an actual a different dungeon besides Tartarus that you go through that is very different. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail as to why that is, what you're doing there, but that's essentially what that
It's
happens.
pretty self-explanatory when it says episode Igus, though. Just
Yes.
just to let you know, it's very self-explanatory what you're gonna do. But
Spoiler alert: Igus is the character running the show. I'm sorry.
that's what I see from the trailer. So I kind of know exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right.
Yeah. So there you go. So you got that. But yeah, it's not the second playthrough being the female protagonist. I just think that, as we talked about earlier, it'd just be too much for them
Mhm.
to do this. Like it'd be too much of an undertaking, I think, for this game to do both. So
Mhm.
in fact, they talked about it in an interview too, Garrett. Like they originally like started working on it, but then they scrapped episode, I guess.
Mhm.
And it wasn't because until like fan
Right.
demand when the game was announced that it wasn't going to have the answer in it, that then actually made them want to go in
Mhm.
to play through, like to add that to the game
That
eventually.
is a great answer to an interview. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so I'm sure they've been working on it. And
to be fair, it's Sega,
yeah.
and I actually believe that that's probably actually factual when they say that.
Got it, got it. I want to talk about the timing of this game because I feel like a lot of people are all over the place with the how long to be, and we kind of talked about this before we started the
Sure.
show. Um, so my time right now, and I told you before, I'm like, I'm floor 251, 252. I'm like nearing the end. Like I'm at the end, like almost the last week of
Yeah,
January.
you're like sub 10 levels left.
Yeah, basically. And I am 90 hours into this game. Now, I it's kind of dumb how the game clock works too, because like I actually I don't know where you're playing, but I'm playing on Game Pass. Um, and then I play on Xbox,
Mhm.
but I also play on my PC, and then I also play on my Steam Deck through Windows, and it's very nice because of the cross save functionality. It works really well with this game. I'm glad it works so well. But every time I go to, let's say, pause, or like if I go to what's it called again? It's not sleep, or what do you quick resume?
Oh, like quick resume? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It runs the game clock. It
Oh, that explains things because I'm playing on PlayStation and like even when I put it into rest mode on my PlayStation but left the game open, it didn't run the clock.
It runs the clock on quick resume. No, I think if you turn off the console, it'll stop the clock. But like definitely when it's on the menu, like
Right.
you go back to the Xbox menu, it
Mhm.
runs the game clock like for a certain period of time, and it messes up my gun clock a lot. I at least think 20. I would say at least 15 hours
Yeah.
is not me playing this game.
Well, I was gonna say, like,
Yeah,
there's not much. Like, I didn't skip any of the story stuff or like
right.
skip any of the dialogue, and I beat the game in 65 hours is how I finished it.
Yeah.
So,
And like I don't know how well, okay, I don't know how PC works, but it's weird because what Steam Deck does, and I think this is what happens with ROG Ally too, and other things. I run it, I boot it up in Windows and play the game there, and it works. It works quite well actually. You can play 60 frames, with a little jitters here and there, but it's still playable. If I put it on sleep mode, what the Steam Deck does, it turns off the Wi-Fi connection, and that's how it signals the game to turn off the clock,
mhm,
in a sense, for most of these games, and it's kind of compatible with Steam OS. Windows, I don't know, not so much. Apparently, it kind of works for Persona 3 Reload, but sometimes it doesn't, and it runs the game clock. So there you go. That's why I think it's 90 hours
yeah.
versus 70 or 65 or
That
whatever.
makes a lot of sense because yeah, like
Mhm.
when I go into the amount of time it says I've played the game just on the PlayStation home menu, it's like exactly with what it's set to in the game. So
Oh
on
no,
the PlayStation menu.
and actually, there's a separate clock if you look at the Xbox, the Xbox app on PC. They
Right.
have a separate clock that's not the in-game clock, and it says 112 hours.
My
And I'm
God.
like, you got to be kidding me! I did not play this for 112 hours. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah. Anyways,
main thing though, in case people are wondering, it's a shorter game than pretty much all the modern Persona games.
isn't
Like it's
that
shorter
funny?
than 4 Golden and
It is.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think I'll beat it like, effectively in 80 hours, 75 to 80 hours.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because I think the only difference
shorter in the
between
book.
like you and I playing would be like how much time we spent in Tartarus, maybe.
I think it's Tartarus, but also okay. Oh, another big thing I did, I followed a guide.
Right.
Which is very separate than what I did from 4 Golden or 5. And the main reason I did this is to max out the social links or kind of get close to it. I don't know if I'm actually will. But that yeah, I went through it a guide in my experience, and I think it's just really the play style, what you want to play as and what you want to do. I kind of like having a guide
Right.
just to be a little bit more structure around this because we're gonna do the same things, we're gonna do the same social interactions, it just depends on the timing
Right.
of it really. And I just would rather have a schedule than like oh okay, let me just think about what I want to do that specific day,
Yeah.
that specific time. But yeah, that was
Whereas
cool.
I'm just the type of person where I'm just like, no, I kind of want to just make the schedule myself and just do what I want that day. And I was punished for it because I didn't finish all the social links in time. And I know if I
It's
want the
hard,
platinum, I
I
have to go
think.
back and get them again.
Yeah. I actually I started the guide late, like kind of like I would say a week later or 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
and I was thrown off with specifically Fuka's social link. You need max courage
Yeah.
in order to start her social link, and I didn't have
Yeah.
that day. I was like a couple days off or something like that. So I don't know. She's gosh, we'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
how that goes. But yeah, it's Tartarus. Like it depends on like how long you'll play in that. I actually did when I was initially playing, I went through replay throughs of like the first 2 blocks just to get enough money
Right.
to
Yeah.
do all the stuff I needed to do in the beginning of the game.
Yeah. I think in
Um
this game, you like, especially if you're following the guide, you like money is kind of a struggle at the beginning of the game. Whereas like
yeah.
by like the summer break, like I had so much money that like I stopped even collecting money in dungeons because I'm like, I don't even have anything to spend this on.
Oh, I still collect money. Now, what I do is I like to summon personas a lot. And that was another thing too, is that you kind of need to have the right arcana in your persona party or
Yeah,
your,
for the
list
social
of
links.
for the social links to max out the social kind of like signals or whatever. And also like besides the point of the guide, I really like having the right answer to the right decision to maximize the
Right.
social link. And that's just a personal thing for me. It's like, okay, I wouldn't know what that max social link is or what the correct answer is. So if I was somehow off, I would, as you said, I would just be missing a social link. I would,
Mhm.
just, yeah, yeah. But I like to do all the stuff that I can. So
Yeah.
that's just how I play.
Also, in comparison, Skycatcher Gaming in the chat says 110 hours for me. I played on hard mode though. I think
That makes
that
sense.
changes things too, because like you probably have to spend way more time grinding and
Yeah.
doing combat and stuff.
Especially these battles, these shadow battles can be very complex, can be very long, and,
Yeah.
the pacing of it can be, forever, depending on how you're approaching a shadow, what they're doing, and their tactics. So I could totally believe a hard mode of that 110. It reminds me of Shin Megami Tensei 5, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
in the way that is structured too. So yeah. Um, did you beat the Reaper? I'm
Oh
curious
yeah,
if you
I
did.
did. Yep.
Oh, okay. I haven't
Yep.
beaten the Reaper yet. It's
Nope.
it's pretty rough.
Although I did not beat the super secret boss in that
Oh, this is
reset.
super secret boss.
There's
Great.
a super secrets boss. There's a boss that's like much harder than the Reaper. Much harder.
Are you serious? I thought the Reaper is rough.
No, dead serious. It's
Oh man.
ridiculous. In fact, it's like unique to this version of the game.
Oh man, I don't want to. You see, I tortured myself enough with Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah, it might be on
I
your guide to fight this boss at some point, Garrett. You might have to
No,
prepare
it's
for
not
it.
because it wants you to do 100% of the trophies, and you don't
Right.
need the super secret boss to
Yeah.
get all the trophies. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't in order to get all the trophies, you don't have to finish all of Elizabeth's requests, which plays into
Yes.
it.
Oh, I don't think I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm good.
But you at least got Elizabeth to come to your room and hang out, probably.
Not yet, but I think I have enough
Okay.
requests to do it. So I'll do
Okay.
it before it
Because
ends. Yeah.
that's one of the trophies. I know it'll come
Yeah.
up at some point. Yeah.
It's that I gotta beat the Reaper, I gotta max out the social links, and I think that's all the rest of the fuse the Messiah,
Right.
fuse the persona. And
Which you
that's
won't get until like the last month.
I'm on the last week.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So
Yeah. You're right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, next up, famous Seamus. I'll ask two more questions. What are your thoughts on the new voice cast? Do you have a favorite? I think we both agree. New voice cast is actually great. Like I
I
have
love it.
someone like I played both games, and I do have a soft spot for the original voice cast. But I think the new voice cast did a great job in their own way. I think they all did a great job. And honestly, I'm just gonna come on and say it. I think my favorite of the new voice cast for your main party members is Junpei. I
Junpei's
actually,
great, actually.
I,
Yeah.
I actually think he's a really big improvement over the original Junpei actor. Like I love like his like energeticness to his voice. Like I love the way that the voice actor played him. Like I think
Mhm.
he's actually like a good like upgrade over the original voice actor for Junpei.
Nice.
Yeah. But next up, what do you think about the remixed music and the new music tracks? I love the new battle theme. Of course, you've got the remixed version of Mass Destruction, which is the original battle theme.
Mhm.
But then I love like the new battle theme from when you like surprise an enemy. Like I like that theme a lot.
Yeah.
It's really good. But also, Garrett, one of the new songs in this is the nighttime theme when you're outside the dorm.
Mhm.
I love that song. It's so good. Like when
The
you're just
doo doo
walking around at night.
doo doo
Yeah.
doo
And you got
doo
like Lotus
doo.
Juice in there.
Yeah, the lotus juice in there. Yeah, he's pretty funny. I like his rapping. I love the music in this game. It's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, as you said, the battle music's very great. I like the introduction song. I don't think there's one song in here, in the soundtrack was super weird.
Yeah.
I it's like one of the weird scenes. Like
Is it like one of the ones where that happens when you're fighting one of like the full moon bosses?
Yeah, it's one of those, or
I
Straight
think I know which one
or
you're talking
something.
about. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
that sounds weird. Yeah.
that's the only one that I was like, this is a little
Yeah, it's
weird.
trying
But
to
other
off-put you a little bit.
yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely off-putting me. But the other music's very good. So
Yeah,
yeah, I could
exactly.
listen to it all day.
Yeah. And again, like the original tracks that they redid, I think they're all really, really solid as well. Especially like just the original, like because you get multiple iterations of your, exploring theme after school. Like I love the first after school theme a
Mhm.
lot. That was in the original game, but I like how they, did the remix of that as an example.
Mhm.
But next up, Garrett, we've got Kevin Ainsworth's question, which
We
is
got
going to
Kevin.
transition a little bit into spoiler territory. So,
Go
folks at
for it.
home, I'm going to read this question. This question contains spoilers, and we will talk about spoilery stuff afterwards. So, if you're watching on YouTube and you don't want to be spoiled, feel free to mute the stream. I will do this with my finger, like point up, essentially, and this will indicate when it is okay to unmute, essentially, from spoilers. And if you're listening on the audio feeds, I will put a time code in the description of this podcast to let you know where the spoilers start and stop, so you know
That's
where to skip.
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Kevin Ainsworth's question. This is your last warning, by the way. We're about to enter spoiler territory. Hey guys, I wish I could have been there. We did ask, of course, for full transparency, Kevin to hop on the call with us tonight, but he was just unable to because he had some stuff going on. Obviously, I'm the outlier for Persona 3 Reload, but I'm going to keep my question simple. Am I the only one that felt that Persona 3 basically had no story and the characters were added to seize inorganically off screen? The story from me basically boiled down to beat 12 shadows because you were told to, and the big plot twist in the last 2 months is to fight the real big bad. And this made it very hard for me to care about the game or feel connected. What do we think about this? Because like this brings back something you talked about earlier, Garrett, where you thought the story was, a little bit slower. Like it took a little bit of time to get through it.
Yeah. Mhm.
But like, I actually didn't mind the fact that the characters already had like a pre-established, thing where they were already part of Seas and they were already tracking shadows and stuff, and they just, weren't organized until the main character kind of comes along.
Mhm.
But I didn't mind the fact that that it wasn't like Persona 5 where like you kind of all like come together throughout the story. Like you meet each other and then you become part of
Mhm.
this thing kind of thing.
Well, I think also the other characters that kind of join into the game, it's very abrupt. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, here's a kid.
But in a
He's a
way, it kind
Persona
of
user.
but
Yeah.
as someone who watches anime, Garrett, it really reminded me of like the stories in anime, but when you're watching something like Evangelion or something like that, where
Mhm.
they obviously have, because like the chairman of the school is like the leader of C's. So obviously he like has a list of like the student director of like, well, who has the potential to be on the crew? Like, of
Yeah.
course, he's going to be the one who kind of organizes that rather than the main character. So like,
Yeah. Yeah.
to me, as someone who watches a lot of anime, especially like, anime that have like, center around, groups with special powers like this, that's just the way a lot of anime kind of works. So it's just like, to me, it didn't really bother me as much since I'm just used to it from watching anime.
Yeah, I think it's also if you really do compare it, just side by side, compare it to Persona 4 Golden and 5 Royal. I think what they do in the other two games is they do emphasize the party members a lot more
Yeah.
in terms of its just story and personality and the way as I said in the beginning, how it weaves in characters and story and the dungeons all together kind of more coherently. Whereas Persona 3, it's not like that, and it's not supposed to be like that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's just how it is. But I don't when you say no story, it's like, yeah, I could see that for like the first, I don't know, 3 months of this game. You kind of like go straight forward with it. But
Yeah.
I argue at least like I this is just for me, turning points, summer break, and then everything after happens with summer break. That's when stuff like really gets going. I'm just like, okay, there's so many different characters and talking points. There's relationships involved, and actually, the main villain or the main I guess threat of Persona 3 makes a lot more sense than
Yep.
Persona 4 Golden or 5 Royal at all. Like 5 royals like kill God. And I'm just like, this is stupid. Like
No, and don't get me wrong,
yeah.
you are essentially fighting a god
You are.
in this game, but it's like, well, it's like been gestating inside the main character like this whole time because of this like
It's a little
past
more
thing that the
complicated,
game
yeah.
kind of alludes to a little bit. So like it's like way like weaved way more into the story where it's not like a surprise element that's out of nowhere. Like the second you see like that character, the one character like Death show up, like you know something's up. Like something's going on
definitely.
there.
Yeah, that was cool realization. Also, I found the adult version of Death, or not adult, sorry, the teenage version, the high school student that's like
Yeah.
very random too. It's
Yeah.
like who's this kid that just walked in and like, bugging us the whole time, and you finally realize who he is and what he's gonna do. And yeah, I agree with you. I think the end boss of this is there's some motivation, there's some grounded truth to it. Whereas Persona 5, I remember just playing it, and of course that's a different ending than for 5 Row, but really to the end of that, it's just like, what am I doing? Like I'm just trying to kill a concept. It's same thing with Tactica. Tactica is something like that. It's like, okay, yeah, this is the villain, this is a villain. Actually, this whole concept is a villain. So go after it. I'm like, okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
It's again like this like feels organic, especially because I like the way it kind of ties into Aigus's story too, because she's like she was around when like all the stuff that you learn about during the summer vacation happens. But it's just like kind of sealed in her memory banks essentially. So I like that the idea of like how that all plays out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But,
So anyways, I you know what, Kevin, I understand your perspective a little bit on this. I think I don't know about I would say the last 6 months, the second half of this game. I disagree. I think this game has a much, I would say more of a storyline near the ending versus what I felt with base 5. By the way, I know 5 Row is much different.
In fact, 5 Royal is its own.
It's a lot more.
Can of worms. I'm not gonna get into it because I know you haven't played it. But
yeah. Cool.
But
so
I'm also doing this, so audio listeners know spoilers are over.
Spoilers are over.
Spoilers are over. All right. Last question, Garrett, before we get into non-Persona related questions that we're going to answer, that this will like kind of wrap up our conversation. This comes to us from Nagachaka, who asks, which game is better, Persona 3 Reload or Persona 5 Royal? And yes, you have to choose one. So
go for it, Ryan.
All right. You already know my answer. It's Persona 3 Reload, I think, is a better game.
Really?
From
okay,
top to bottom, I think it's a better game. Yes, I understand both from your and Kevin's perspective that the story is slower at the beginning.
It is.
But I love the story payoffs in this one more than Persona 5. I like the crew and the overall characters more in this game than Persona 5. I think the combat to me feels just a little bit better than Persona 5. Like I liked the enemy design, the boss design a lot more than Persona 5, especially because I really felt like you had to like strategize even more in this game versus Persona 5 with the combat. And just overall, like, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say, I think it's a better game than Persona 5 just overall. Like, I think, yes, there are definitely things that Persona 5 does better than this game, but I just personally think it's better. But what do you think?
Well, okay, I played base 5, so I know I'm repeating myself. So just to let you know, Nagachaka, I'm not talking about 5 Royal. I'm talking about base 5. I think, man, it's been years. It's been 7 years now since I last. Oh man, I think I just like 5's style, and it's not really just like it's a better game per se. It's just like I just love the pacing of the palaces, the motivation behind the bosses in each of them. It's a little bit more stylized, a little bit more emotional, I think. And the characters are pretty like the party members are kind of welled within, like the more coherently welled within each other versus 3 Reload. I think what I love about 3 Reload is there's so much backstory and exposition and then transition and dynamics with all the characters in this game. They going from beginning of the game to the end, they're completely different personalities, completely different. They evolve and then they gain new skills as you interact with them is kind of cool too. Yeah, I think they have both their benefits. I
Mhm.
don't know if you okay. Well, if I had to choose one, I would just still say 5. And
Okay.
that's just, you know, but you know what I do love about this game? It's just the style of the UI is
Yeah.
so good.
It might be one of the best UIs ever. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, it blows off every other UI I've ever like done like
Yeah.
played in a video game.
Which is crazy to think about because, like,
It's so
I think
good.
Persona 5 and 5 Royal kind of set the benchmark for like
Yeah.
incredible UI design.
Yeah, no, definitely. So but they put it to another level with this one.
Yeah.
I
No, in this
love it.
game, like no menu feels wasted. Just the visual style of it as well, like the sinking into water, or just the idea like when you're going to the party.
Yeah.
Remember, you've got like the character's got like the shard of glass in front of them, and it reflects like
And
the
it
character you
reflects the
selected.
characters. Yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah.
So good.
It's really cool. But yeah, I totally, respect that answer, Garrett, even though, we both, don't agree on that answer. That's totally cool. I totally understand why you prefer Persona 5. And that's okay. Because like you said before, there really isn't a bad Persona game. And regardless of what one is
Yeah,
your favorite, they're all really good games. That's the
definitely.
thing. Which
Definitely.
kind of rounds things out. I think, Persona 3 for me, Persona 3 Reload is like everything that I wanted it to be as far as a Persona 3 fan, as someone who loved the original game. And this is like an all-timer for me, man. Like this is up there probably in the top like 50, if not 25 games of all time for me personally. Like
Wow.
I love this game a lot. I expect to I'm probably going to replay it again, sometime before the end of the year to kind of like get the platinum trophy and go back
Of
and
course.
especially like probably when episode I guess comes out is probably when I do that. So then I can kind of do
Mhm.
both at once essentially and get kind of like the quote unquote royal treatment, the royal esque treatment, since we're not going to get like a Persona 3 Royale edition probably.
Oh,
Uh,
I know, who is it? Savoy Prime,
yeah.
right? Roy. He is like, "Oh, there's gonna be a Persona 3 Reload plus New Golden Royale." It's like, "Nah, dude, if they put a DLC in here, it's
To be
hard."
fair, they might do like a bundle that
They'll
includes
do a
both,
bundle.
and that
I'm
it
sh
includes it. But
Yeah.
you're right, like a not there's not going to be like a brand new version that has even more junk in it. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, I can't believe they did that, to be
I mean,
honest with
look, why would you want to carry over your saves anyways, Garrett?
Oh
Like why would
my
you want to do
god,
that?
it's just what kind of well, actually, that's not so bad. It's just like, "Hey, we're giving you this game again for a full price,
Yeah,
but guess what? Later adopters get both." Yeah, okay, what 5 Inches does is they just add another route.
right.
They add another like and that breaks off from the original game. So late adopters will get the full price game and it'll be both. It will be the original and the Vengeance route. And then
That
late
but
adopters
that's
will buy both games because
But
they're
that's what happens
suckers.
with Persona 5, Persona 3 Ponapral, Garrett, because the
That's
late
true.
adopters to Persona 3 got the female character route, which was completely different, kind of like the Vengeance route.
Mhm. I'm looking forward for episode. I guess I'm very surprised that it's part of Game Pass Ultimate. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the very few perks as DLC. I honestly I don't think of others. Um,
Yeah, they don't even do that with their own first party games.
they really don't. Like Forza Horizon 5 is not their DLC is not part of the Game Pass, so you
Yeah.
have to buy it. So I thought that was very unique. And I'll definitely take advantage of it to let them know I want Game Pass and I want these games on Game Pass and I want to play these extra perks and DLC on Game Pass. So I'll definitely play it there. Um, yeah, and I probably won't replay it because it is a long time. It is the shorter of the other two
Mhm.
Persona games, but even still, it's a long game.
No, but you're gonna have all the
Um,
achievements and stuff by the time you finish it and stuff like that, so it's all good.
yeah, I hope I'm maxing out all those social links. I'm like, I'm very close. Like, I'm on the last 7 or 8 days of this game.
Yeah.
I still need to max out, I guess, and then also, yeah, 3 others.
Oh,
Two of
jeez.
them are two of them are one away. They're like, you just gotta, go through, and then Fuka's gonna be the hard one for me because I got 2, I got 3 left for her. So we'll
You're not
see.
going to make it by the calculations you just gave me.
Well, no, wait. I think I'm January 21st.
So
On
you have 9 days.
Yeah, I have 9 days. Yeah, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
That's
Yeah,
gonna be tight. Like you
that's
better
gonna be pretty
you
tough.
better not fail any of them or get like I don't think my relationship's gonna develop anytime soon.
Oh man, no! I put so much fortune readings in Fuga. Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully that's enough to
Or you can
max it out.
always use the online dating app.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah,
like the
I
night
could,
rate. Yeah.
I could. Yeah,
Since this game doesn't give you nearly enough things to do at night, essentially.
it really doesn't.
Yeah.
Actually, like the last 2 months, I didn't do much.
No, but literally what I did, Garrett, was I bought like 50 of those and just to boost all my social links. Like at night. That was just my nightly activity for the last 2 months, was just doing that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
But either way, sounds like Persona 3 Reload. I think it's big thumbs up for us at the RPG crew. We both recommend it. I think it's great. You should go play it if you haven't played it yet.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, Garrett, 2 quick questions from the crew. We got Fuya, who asked the question. I've been enjoying my time with Yakuza 0 this past week, but according to Ryan, the Yakuza games don't really fall under the RPG genre, even though I found Yakuza 0 under the JRPG collection on the PlayStation Store. What genre are they supposed to be? So we actually talked about this on PlayStation Drive, but there are 2 Yakuza games that are role-playing games.
That's
are
true.
JRPGs. You've got Yakuza Like a Dragon and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the one that just came out.
Correct.
Those are turn-based role-playing games.
Correct.
The rest of the Yakuza games are basically beat-em-up games, like Streets of
Correct.
Rage or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. Like
With RPG elements
sure,
sprinkled around.
sure,
Yeah, but they're not RPGs. Yes,
No,
I agree.
they are no way RPGs, which is why I laughed when Fulia told me, "Oh, I was looking for JRPGs, and I saw Yakuza 0 in there, and it was super cheap, so I played it. And it's fun." And like, yeah, it's not a
That's not an RPG. And actually, Fulia, I did a separate independent analysis. I didn't talk to engage and interact with Ryan, but I went to the Steam store. I looked up Yakuza 0 and looked at the tags to see what the tags are. Story driven, beat 'em up. And I forgot the third one, but it was definitely not role playing game. It was really story driven, beat 'em up.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think it's like manga in there or something. Oh yeah, some Japanese.
Some like anime or manga related thing. But
Yeah.
So to your point, Garrett, it's a beat 'em up game with like slight RPG elements and like it's very story heavy.
Yeah, because you get currency or points to improve your martial arts. That's it. Yeah, and then you get mini games, and then I don't know if there's an equipment system or not.
I don't think there is. Not in Yakuza 0, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, the Like a Dragon is a turn-based RPG.
Yeah.
For sure.
Those games are just trying to
100%.
be Dragon Quest, essentially.
Yeah, legit. They are copying Dragon Quest. They actually I want to play Infinite Wealth just because of the Pokemon ripoff game that's in there too. So I got to get through Like a Dragon first before I even get to Infinite Wealth. Anyways,
cool.
Yeah.
Last question. This comes from Sean Capri, who put this in the chat, but Sean said, question for the carpool later. Or in this show, we call it Party Up, Sean. Get the lingo right.
Party Up.
Ryan starts the show by saying, greetings, fellow travelers. Is this to imply that we are Octopath travelers? What kind of travelers are we, and where are we traveling to? Look, the idea is we're all on an adventure together through the different levels of the RPG cave itself. Because the RPG cave is a big place. It's kind of like Tartarus in a way, where it's got a bunch of
I mean,
different
we're
levels to it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be bigger than Tartarus by by our length and our standards. Yeah. We're at
Yeah.
level 128 now. We got to get
Yeah.
to 300. No joke
Yeah.
to be larger than tartar sauce over
Tartar
here.
sauce, as Junpei-kun would put it.
Yeah,
Tartar sauce. God, stupid.
I love it.
Junpei.
I love it.
Yes. I mean, yes. And so, yes, you all are travelers on this journey with us as we travel through the RPG cave. We're not just hanging out in the cave. This is a journey we're going on together.
Yeah, actually, it reminds me of Sword Art Online, the hit anime show, of course, as you know. I watched like the first like 3 arcs of that game, and it's all about going floor to floor, just with your travelers, with your friends, beating up monsters, and that's what we're doing. We're just like kind of going through, and it's like a dungeon raid, in your MMOs.
Exactly.
More or less. So
that's why we clear the dungeon, because we're getting to the raid boss, and then
we're going the raid boss.
Then we read the sacred text as we sit around the fire and regale and stories of our adventures, and then we party up with everyone in the chat to continue the journey. And of course, people of course chiming in the chat saying Sword Art Online is in fact the best. The luckless, says Sean Garrett, which is exciting. I mean, you might not be saying that luckless if you look at the Sword Art Online games, because they're all terrible.
Yeah. Don't play the games. Just don't do it at all. They're really bad. Just watch the anime and you're good. But Sean, if you want to be an Octopath Traveler, you can be an Octopath Traveler.
I thought that Sean is our triangle strategist. Like,
the Illuminati, the triangle,
the power of the triangle. The Illuminati. Good God. Like, we need to get out of here. It's like an hour and a half into the show. But before we go, Garrett, we got to thank all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, starting with our ultimate producers, Tony Baster from the Quest 4 Pixels podcast. You can check them out over at youtube.com/quest4pixels today. That's the number 4, not 4 spelled out, Garrett. And then Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can check out his link tree at linktr.ee/pme/JIB. Of course, the link can be found in the description of this video or this podcast. Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. You can check them out over at phoenixoverdrive.com. Maybe also join that Extra Life team for Phoenix Overdrive. Maybe we'll see you in November over at Extra Life. And then Cwagmire, who humbly reminds you that the best babes are in fact Xenobabes. Of course, links to all of our ultimate producers can always be found in the description of this podcast. Our gold members, Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, BobLoblaw, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, CrocoKyle, Dan and Luma, Dannohh, Emily O'Kelly, Jan32, Marcus O'Neill, Peje EP, and Tim Aulph. Huge thank you once again to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. If you want to hop in the car with us, head on over there and choose the tier that's right for you. But now, Garrett, plugs go.
You can follow me at Twitter at Blaine Explosion. And then I also just keep seeing some incremental progress of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 from the Nintendo Drive crew. And I'm just letting you know, if you are done, I am an open book with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Because I know Ryan didn't play it. I don't know. I'm sure he won't finish it. It's a long JRPG as well. So
yeah,
man, I would love to talk about that game though with other folks. For sure.
If it makes you feel better, Garrett, I put my copy of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 up on eBay this week.
That's fine. No, that's good.
I'm not going to have a copy pretty soon. It's going to be up the door.
It's the special edition one, right?
It is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's because I saw like the price like skyrocket on eBay for them, where like it's going now for like $400. So I'm like, yes, please take this from me.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. It's a great game though, and I would love to talk about it once they're done.
Nice.
Or one of them's done.
One of these days. Oh, and also, quick, housekeeping note. Garrett, you're moving next week, which is exciting.
Yes, I am. I'm not moving across country or anything like that, like crazy, like last time. I am just moving across the bridge, in the Bay Area. So, I will not be here next week because it will be full of boxes. This stuff will be packed up.
Yeah, which also means next time we see you, people won't be surprised that you're going to be in a completely different place, which will be exciting.
Yeah, completely different. So get ready.
Yeah. By the way, folks, we got a cool show planned for next week, so make sure to tune into next week's show because I've got some cool guests lined up. So please be excited. But as for me, you can find me on the old Twitter, aka X, at Ryan Turford. I was also a guest on another podcast this week, the Communication Error podcast that comes out on Wednesday. So if you want to find out more about that, go to my Twitter page. I will be tweeting that out when that goes live Wednesday morning. So there you go. That's of course with our friends over at with Cheesy over there. Nice about stuff. You can also find us on Twitter at Carpool Gaming, right here, youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. Of course, podcast services around the globe. So for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the 128th level of the RPG Cave, and we're out.
Bye-bye.